And welcome to our podcast. So today we're talking to James, who runs the Old Sunday School. It's a beautiful holiday let in Cornwall, and having been successfully running that for the last 3 years, he and his wife are now expanding their listings, opening up new ones in the area. So we're looking forward to hearing how they've achieved the success and hopefully getting some good tips for you guys. So welcome, James.
Hi, Gareth. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No worries, no worries. So just starting with your funniest guest story, as we always like to do.
Okay. So this one is an interesting one. Good one for the pub. Lisa and I came in. We live next door, so we're in this old chapel building. The Sunday school is attached. We live in the building next door. The guests had left, and we do the changeovers ourselves most of the time. Came in, as you might be able to see up here, we've got a glass partition that separates the bedroom, overlooks the main living area. And as we go on to do our clean in the bedroom area, I sort of double took the glass partition, some really sort of weird sort of marks, like sort of almost like when a bird hits a pane of glass and you've got that imprint of the bird. It's a little bit like that. These sort of large circular markings with dots in the middle, and it was like, what is that? It was otherwise like a really clean pane. And as we got closer, it was like, took a bit of a sort of step back. It was like, whoa, and became apparent what they were. And the guest had kindly left us, the lady guest had left us like an artist impression of her boobs. So yeah, fascinating. Took lots of pictures, and we did actually have cleaners coming to help us that day that were just, everyone that saw it really impressed. So it was a special moment.
I've got to say, that's like probably the funniest guest story that we've had so far on the podcast. That is absolutely brilliant. You didn't have to take any of their deposit for the extra cleaning fees or anything like that?
No, I didn't. No, it was sort of like Tracy Emin. It was almost like I wanted to sort of frame it up like a Tracy Emin sort of piece of art and sell it. But yeah, sadly it had to be cleaned there and then for the next guests coming in. So shame. You wiped off a masterpiece there, perhaps.
Okay, cool. So a little bit of background on your listing and just how you guys got into the industry and how you got started with the Old Sunday School.
Sure. Yeah, it was and by accident, really. There was no great sort of business plan, master plan with regards to holiday letting. It came about. A lot of my childhood was coast at Whitsun Bay in southeast Cornwall. We had a family chalet on that stretch of cliff, and there was a guy that wanted to sell his chalet, and we just got an opportunity to buy like a derelict chalet, to run down and basically put in planning permission, flatten it and rebuild it to the sort of like a 2 bedrooms, about 35 square meters, 2-bedroom chalet. And it was our plan to keep it for ourselves, for Lisa and I to sort of spend time in, friends and family and things. And we went for it. It was a great project, brilliant build. And just towards the end of the project, we realised we were properly running out of money. We'd invested in another a buy-to-let for more of a residential. We had to pull out of that because we'd run out of money. And we knew we were going to have to sadly sell the chalet as soon as it was completed. So it was gutting. But our builder sort of said to us, "Look, why don't you think about letting it out?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean? Like, what sort of, what's that all about? What sort of money's in it and stuff?" And we thought, well, we'll give it a go. We'll just give it a go and just see. It could be the only way that we can keep this thing. So yeah, we started that. We built a little website. It was, I don't want to say before the days of Airbnb, but I certainly didn't really know about Airbnb in those days. I did know a bit about websites. I'm a bit of a geek with websites and SEO and stuff. So I sort of built this website, advertised a little bit locally on a site called Crab Pot, like a little sort of local website to the area. And yeah, through that and word of mouth, it got really busy. And I just realized sort of how much I love doing it, bringing people to the area, having people from big cities and abroad and places like that experience where we live and fall in love with the area like we have is brilliant. I love hosting, and that's how I got into it. The chalet sadly had to be sold some years later. I think we did it for about 6 years. It was built it right up, really high occupancy rates, brilliant reviews. It was a brilliant thing, a lovely thing to do. But we needed to move house, and it was the only place our money was. We didn't have money anywhere else. It was there's no mortgage on it. Money was just ploughed into that, everything we had. So sadly, you can't get mortgages on those things. So we had to sell it to get to move house. And but thankfully, that money that was released from that project allowed us to buy the chapel and the Sunday school that we're in now. So that was it really. And then with the Sunday school, we knew this sort of building, this old Grade 2 listed chapel and Sunday school that we fell upon and fell in love with. Again, the only way that we knew before we started this one though, that the only way we could afford to do it was to put it out on a holiday let. So that was it really. It took a long time, listed building consent and planning and everything else. It took years to get it to the point where we could get it let out. And then when we did finally come to let it out, it clashed with COVID. So that was a really interesting spell. But yeah, ever since, it's just been crazy busy, and we've loved doing it, and being attached to it, it's just made it that much easier as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's really interesting. So you said that initially when you first set out, you started doing some direct bookings. So you built a website. Do you find that as that opportunity has kind of gone away and it's harder to get that exposure now as an individual listing than it was maybe when you first started?
Yeah. Do we going back to the chalet? You saying?
Yeah, sorry, the chalet. When you guys first started hosting, so obviously you set the website and then you just listed on a local site. I imagine what they took probably wasn't anywhere near the commission that Airbnb take. In terms of their fees. So do you think that that's kind of changed now and that it's more angled, sort of the bigger platforms? You kind of have to go with the bigger platforms, or would you say like hosts could actually potentially even do the route that you originally did and still be busy?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. It feels like from the power of Airbnb, it feels like, I think if someone said to me, no, you had to take Airbnb out of your sort of arsenal of armory and start looking around for other avenues, which I still do. I've spread myself out, but I know the amount that comes through Airbnb's between probably 80-90%. I think if you wanted to take it seriously, I think you'd really struggle. I mean, back in those days, I was lucky enough to, like I say, to know a little bit about SEO, and with the website and just Whitsun Bay holiday accommodation, Whitsun Bay chalets, Whitsun Bay places to stay, holiday, all those things. I just optimized it. Back in the day, you could really sort of work Google's algorithm and stuff. And that, I mean, I got mostly direct bookings through that. You can't do those things these days with Google, and even with our own websites, unless you're hyper niche in a certain area, there's no way I'm going to rank and get business through Google for big, dog friendly holiday let. You can forget it. So yeah, I'd totally put a lot of focus in Airbnb, and still the website and stuff, because people like direct bookings. At Luxury Coastal I use are a good one, because they're like a channel managing. They've got their own listings, but they've also got like a channel manager team that manage all the other channels, and that can be Airbnb or I keep my own Airbnb listing, but a lot of people just let them do that. So I think yeah, there's other ways to do it, but it does feel like Airbnb is just such a big gun. It would be hard to not live without them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think sort of a lot of hosts complain about the fees that these platforms are taking, and kind of I see a lot of hosts. Obviously, we work with a lot of hosts at Placer, chat to a lot of them, and we see a lot of them sort of trying to get more direct bookings. I understand it's a challenge, but I don't know how successful necessarily they're kind of being in that, just because, like you said, it's very hard for them to rank for the terms that maybe have the highest volumes. So maybe you can sort of focus and get a little niche, like you said, within probably a particular area as well. But you're going to get such low volumes that you're still going to need to be on one of these big sites to actually get the volume of traffic that you need and get the bookings that you need.
you got to volume of traffic, and you got to convert them. Once you get them on the site, you've still got to convert them, and you'd need, yeah. So I just think the amount of people that are using Airbnb, get that listing good. Make sure you got your 5-star reviews. Try and get your superhost status and optimize your listing. That's why lots of people ask me about it. I've got a lot sort of people that I sort of help with their listings and things, and they do. I often come back to their Airbnb listing. It's all good. I'm not neglecting other areas. And I always think Airbnb could change at any time. Their algorithm, as it has done recently, changed significantly, and people are seeing visibility of their listings disappear. You don't want to put all your eggs in that basket, and so don't forget about those other things. I think, but definitely don't. Make sure you've got the most important thing as optimized as you possibly can with that listing, I think.
Yeah. So you're sort of starting with Airbnb, making sure you've got that in the volume, and then you can sort of have a look at trying to nail your niche and getting some more direct bookings for higher margin, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I think for some people, they do sort of find me sometimes through Airbnb, and it's a little bit tight on Airbnb for that. But if people might contact me and said, "Oh, I've found you," so make sure, that's another good tip actually. Make sure that you that your Airbnb. I hope Airbnb aren't listening to this, but try and make sure that your Airbnb, you can be found quite easily from your Airbnb listing to wherever you want to try and take those direct bookings. So I think like Barkay or other house is quite an easy one that we're just setting up now, because on Airbnb we're called Barkay. There's hardly any Barkays out there. We're not in competition for BAR-K. So I think it's quite easy for people to think, oh, I wonder if we can save ourselves a few £100. And sure enough, there it is. Barkay's got a website. They've got a Google My Business listing. The Old Sunday School, I've done my best to optimize the site for that. Put in the Old Sunday School Cornwall, and you'll find the website. So I do get that, people saving money and stuff, but they tend, not always, but a lot of them are still finding me through Airbnb, and then jumping off that. And finding me offline, finding me a telephone number, WhatsApp, email, contact form, whatever, through the website. And so I think that's quite an important thing.
Definitely. I think so you see a lot of the places on Airbnb, they tend to, I think they encourage a generic title. So it's like townhouse in Central Bath, right? But actually you're probably better off giving your place a brand name, sort of like you have, that's searchable, that you can optimize your site for, because exactly that, people know that probably Booking Direct's going to save them a few quid, so they might actually try and search even after having found your listing on Airbnb.
So what I do is I still keep the titles as exactly as you said, as Airbnb. Same with Barkay. I haven't put the listing title as Barkay. It's like four bed, whatever it is, large house with hot tub, sauna, whatever. And the same with Sundays. I actually left it with, I think it's award-winning, dog-friendly romantic retreat. But then, like right high up in that first paragraph, I'm trying to sell it, but also make it clear what the name of the place is and where it is. So all they've got to do is come away and say, "Oh, right, it's the Old Sunday. It's called the Old Sunday School. It's in Cornwall. Or it's called Barkay. It's in Cornwall." You do that, you'll find them at the top of Google. So, all right, everyone's not going to do it, but people that are actively trying to find a way of getting things cheaper will not find it that hard to do so.
Yeah, and it's probably a more savvy guests will do it as well. It's not, like you say, it's not going to be everyone.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. That's great. That's a great tip for any host looking to save and get some more direct bookings. So just on to the next question. So what's a normal hosting day look like for you then?
Yeah, okay. So a normal hosting day. So if it's not a changeover day and we've got just guests in, depending what sort of guests we are, a lot of the guests we tend, just want to sort of, once they're in and I say I'm here, then that's, pardon me, they're here and they don't necessarily need me, but others are quite interested in knowing where to go, so what to do and things like that. So I might be messaging them, places to walk their dogs or places to eat in the evenings and things like that. But there's a lot of admin that I have to sort of go through, check for new bookings, and as soon as I engage with guests through Airbnb, I start trying to sort of build a rapport up quickly with them, and I send them PDFs of the house manual, place, so they can be really prepared before they come and stuff. So sort of doing the admin. or post on social media for like marketing purposes and things like that. And generally just looking to just constantly trying to improve the properties as well. So I spend a lot of time really sort of going through like feedback questionnaires and things like that, and just trying to just keep. I don't want these places to stagnate. So that's a big sort of part of my sort of life, really, just trying to keep these places with the fact, the wow factors that are sort of keeping people coming,
Yeah, sounds pretty intense. So I mean, and that's only with one listing going at the moment, as I understand. So like how many listings do you reckon you could actually take on and manage yourself?
Well, it depends on what level, because I've thought of this before. I thought of like setting up like a little business myself, really managing people's listings, but to do it at the level that I do it, which is just like so like personalized and so like connected, and like today I've probably spent an hour dealing with someone's like welcome package, and I'm literally earning very little out of that, probably 20 quid or something for managing someone's, and that's just sorting out the particulars of it, let alone putting it in here and setting it all up. So I need to streamline my processes a little bit, but I guess if you did it like I do it, which is too full on to really run it as a proper business, then probably no more than like 3 or 4 listings, I'd imagine, if they were busy listings. But I think if you could really sort of streamline those processes, you might be able to do it on your own, maybe 10 or 12 or something, to still do it at a good standard where you're giving people the attention that they sort of need, really.
Okay, and that goes on to our top 3 tips for Airbnb hosts then. Like of your methodologies and the way that you kind of run things, like what were the top 3 things that you would like to pass on to other hosts to help them manage their properties better?
Yeah, okay. So I think, just leading on really from what I just said then about, I think like to build it, to get a connection with that guest as quickly as you can, and try and maintain that relationship before, during, and after the stay. I think is really, really important. I appreciate this is a business. You're not here necessarily to make friends, but I have made some really good friends during it all as well. But from a business point of view, you look at the reviews and you look at the feedback and things like that we've got. I think a lot of it revolves around being yourself and being personal, and trying to just put yourself in that guest's shoes. And what would you want if you'd come away to a place that you've never been before? What sort of information might you like to know about the area and the property and things like that? I just try and find out as much as I can without being over personal. And some people don't want it. You immediately can understand, or you find the people that just they just want to book a holiday, they just want to come down and they just want to do their own thing, and that's the end of it. You'll find other people that do want to tell you about themselves, and then the more you learn about themselves, those people, you can then help tailor their experience. And we've been for like meals we've been from like meals out, barbecues, coming here for drinks with guests and stuff before, and it's that's like another level and stuff. I appreciate that. It's not necessarily what we're trying to achieve, but we do want to, I think, the tip would be to just try and connect on a really personal level, where and when you can. Is probably my first tip. The second tip would definitely be about team, and just trying to build a team around you, because you have to be quite sort of flexible and diverse in what you do. In the whole thing about being a host, there's quite a lot to it, really. So I mean, thankfully, like my fortes aren't Lisa's fortes, and vice versa. So we can sort of pick up. I don't particularly like cleaning at all, like cleaning and like the whole presentation sort of thing. That I do get into the presentation bit. I can see what I like and what I think will work and not. But like Lisa is the cleaner and the sort of presentation person, and the person that goes online and buys all the stuff, like with the the interior design and stuff like that. So that's Lisa's thing. Everything from like good accountant backup clean team. Lisa gets ill or something like that, you still need someone that can come and do a really, really good job. And yeah, everything really that goes around is just trying to build a solid team, and that means you can turn your own volume up or down on how much you want to get involved, is if you can trust your team. So I think definitely don't think you can do everything on your own, and yeah, because you're just gonna never have a life else, yeah, never be able to relax, which is a big part of it as well, because you do feel like you're on call 24/7 with it. And I think the third tip would definitely be like, be as flexible as you possibly can. So I've thought about how we can try and maximize our bookings, and it's largely about sort of playing to Airbnb's algorithm and trying to allow as shorter stays as you can, allow any day check-ins, check-outs. We allow up to 3 dogs. We've got flexible cancellation policy. We do custom packages and things like that. So we do, and we change the prices. We're really flexible with our pricing. We keep high occupancy rates a lot of the time due to seeing what's coming in 4, 3, 2, 1 week's time, whatever. And it's like, yeah, let's start just tweaking those prices down. Going with Airbnb's recommendations a little bit. Sometimes you've got to be careful with that, but I do think there might be something in their algorithm that's there for sort of trying to match them as and when you can. So yeah, those are my 3 tips really. I think, yeah, team flexibility and connection with guests.
Fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. And then I think on top of that, obviously you mentioned sort of streamlining your process a lot, trying to make your life easier as a host. So what tools would you recommend for doing that?
Okay, so yeah, I think, yeah, tools wise, definitely just a normal a diary, a physical diary. As much as I sort of love tech, and I do rely massively on the Airbnb diary and things like that, it's not diary, just get everything in. Certainly if you're taking direct bookings and bookings from other channels as well, I don't rely on just the Airbnb diary. I think definitely your own website again. I think that's something that's really important. Social media, we don't take a lot of bookings at all through Facebook and Instagram, but they are brilliant resources for showing guests what is going on in the local area. Things like showing them welcome packages. People propose while they're down. They've special events while they're down. If you can, other people are like tagging you in their proposal pictures and things like that. It's like, blimey, maybe that's a good place for me to do it and stuff. So I think there's things like that. SurveyMonkey, I'm a massive fan of just trying to suck as much sort of feedback as I can out of guests whilst they're here. Well, not necessarily whilst they're here, but normally try and leave them alone a bit on that whilst they're here. But when they leave, I send them just a short 10 question, and I bait them actually with a £10 gift. That's
a great idea.
Yeah.
And do you get many responses from it?
Yeah, we've probably done I think probably the hit rate on those is about 1 in 3. I think we've probably had 150 odd stays here now, and I've got well over 50 surveys. So it's more than that. But we get a lot of dog lovers here, and the £10 actually doesn't go to them. It goes to a charity, the local dog rescue centre, dog and cat rescue centre. So it's quite a nice thing. It's quite a nice thing to do, and it certainly, I noticed as soon as I introduced that, the uptake, conversion rate on sending them those links to them being done definitely picked up. But yeah, there's that feedback has just been brilliant, and it's allowed us to like I say, keep sort of innovating here and pushing on and finding out the things that we could improve on and stuff. So definitely, yeah, not necessarily SurveyMonkey, just but a way of capturing some feedback. The other thing that I put a really comprehensive welcome folder is really important. I think is build that out big time, because it's just less times you're going to be getting hassled. Watching a movie in the evenings, and where's the lighter for the log burner or something. It's like, make sure that welcome folder is just saving. It's a bit of a faff and a long-winded exercise getting everything done. But every time a guest asks me questions, I make sure it's in the book, and if it's not, I make sure it's clearer. Sorry, I make sure it's clearer in the book, even if it's in the book and stuff. And it just saves you getting more and more unnecessary and guests that are just getting a bit impatient with stuff, looking for things or whatever.
That's an online book, is it, or is it book that you write?
So no, it's actually not here. It's just having it rebound. But yeah, it's a physical book, an A4, just an A4 welcome folder. But yeah, we do actually have it in PDF. So you're right, I do email that as soon as they take a booking. I get the email address and I send them the PDF of it as well. So they've got the physical form when they're here, and they've got the PDF within 24 hours of their booking as well.
Fantastic.
And I think just the last one on that was just Airbnb host groups on Facebook. We're a member on one of those, and that's a pretty awesome. Thinking about getting a hot tub for the Barcade, which we did, and you just literally go to that group and you either put your own post out there about hot tub or just search, see if anyone has already mentioned much about hot tubs, and you've got an awful lot of information, pitfalls, do's and don'ts, and everything from running to horror stories and stuff like that. So yeah, try and join a local Facebook Airbnb group. A lot of quite friendly and helpful people on there. Definitely a big. Sorry.
A lot of people have already been there, right?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, learn from experience, and don't learn the hard way.
Yeah. So next, we'd like to just get your thoughts on the state of the short-term rental market in the UK right now. There's a lot of changes, especially around government regulation, obviously impending recession and ongoing inflation. So obviously, as a host who's kind of at the coalface, it'd be interesting to hear how this is impacting you and what your thoughts are on navigating it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, it's a different landscape. 12 months. If I look to where we were 12 months and where we are now, we're still at a really high occupancy rates, but we've brought our pricing down to sort of run in line with that. Obviously, staycation fever post COVID's gone away, and a lot more people have jumped on the bandwagon with holiday lets, and we've got in this sort of a big period of financial instability. So yeah, it feels like a little bit sort of scary at the moment, really. But yeah, we're still keeping occupancy levels up, like I say, but it's different. And you've been doing this 2.5 years here, and it's the only period that I know where I'm sort of, now just starting to see things. We haven't got a lot for 23 yet. We're getting a lot of last minute stuff. 22's been really busy, but yeah, it does feel like it's significant. What is going on now for sure.
Mm-hmm. Have you got any ideas on how you're going to sort of navigate it? And you mentioned sort of reducing prices, which is kind of an obvious one, I guess. But then, is there anything else that you're potentially doing to try and maybe get a bigger piece of the smaller pie, I guess, going into 2023?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna sort of up my game with regards to those sort of other avenues of marketing. I think that's definitely where 23 I'm going to focus a bit more of my efforts. I think, and yeah, maybe some sort of print media and things like that as well. I live in an area of Cornwall that there's a lot of local sort of businesses. A lot of people come on holiday here for lots of different reasons, and I think I'm going to look to connect with some other local businesses and things like, not flyering as such, but just putting some places out locally, local restaurants and sort of farm shop, big farm shops and places like that. So I think I'm gonna probably come back to pricing and marketing mainly, and yeah, that's pretty much it really.
So I mean, in terms of the overall UK market, I mean that's kind of, I guess there's not really much you can do about it, but in terms of your local market, is, I guess you said you're already seeing that in 2023. It's kind of very similar. With the prices kind of you having to bring the prices down. In terms of the property market in your local area, so you said a lot of people have kind of come into short stay listings, so I guess that's kind of forcing up property prices, especially in Cornwall, Devon, places like that. So actually, the prices are going up. Now you're seeing potentially occupancy going down. Does the maths get a little bit harder for hosts who are looking to enter the market?
Yeah, well, I think from what I've read and heard, property prices are coming down in Cornwall, and particularly for well, sorry, the article that I'm referring to actually is more on the sort of second home and sort of holiday market properties, because the demand isn't there. Then yeah, then some of those properties are seeing a little bit of a sort of drop in price now coming onto the market, obviously with interest rates going up as well. So yeah, I think that is where we're at in the local area at the moment. I think yeah, second homes holiday lets in Cornwall. Yeah, so it depends. If you're a cash buyer, it may not actually be such a bad time to start looking around. If you're like me and relying on mortgages, it's not so much fun.
Yeah, imagine. Great. So I mean, that's kind of answering. Is it a good time to be investing? So I guess you said it's if you're a cash buyer, maybe could be a good opportunity as prices come down. Playing into sort of 2024 recovery maybe, but maybe if you're relying on mortgages, not so much. But yeah, I mean, so going on to sort of the investment side of things, I mean, would you have any tips for people who are looking to get into the market? Obviously, maybe waiting might be a good idea. Waiting until this blows over a little bit, or yeah, what would your tips be for people to enter?
Yeah, okay. So I think my tips, if I had an opportunity, if I was looking right now, what would I be sort of coaching myself? Would be definitely looking for a property that's not run of the mill, and looking for something that's unique and has some like special features, things that you can do to make your property stand out. And whether that's location, whether it's the physical sort of bricks and mortar of it, or layout of it, or the features that you might be able to put in and around it. But I do, from speaking to a lot of people in the industry, they're saying those properties are the ones that aren't suffering like others at the moment. So I think try and find that property or a way to make that property something that's going to stand out from the crowd. So I think that would be a tip. And I think on the financial side of things, definitely don't stretch yourself and don't expect a lot too much in the shorter term. Obviously, we are, we've just done this with Barquet, and we thought as soon as we sort of opened the doors. So to be fair, we've taken probably like 20 or bookings in a few weeks, mostly much future bookings. But we, I don't think you can expect so much in the shorter term. So give yourself a few months or a year really to try and get yourself. So don't do your sort of profit and loss and your projected incomes in the shorter term. You don't certainly underestimate, rather exaggerate those, unless you're trying to get some borrowing in someone else maybe. But yeah,
no, that makes sense. And I guess it probably takes sort of a year to turn these places around anyway, right? So if you're purchasing something that's you need to put a lot of work into, maybe actually if you're playing into a 2024 recovery, it might be a good time to actually purchase sort of, going into 23. Okay, and then in terms of like Cornwall, I think as an area, I mean, where would you suggest to be looking in terms of if you were to invest in the area?
Yeah, okay, so it's an interesting one really, because when we took this place on, I remember locals saying, we get down the pub and places like that, and people saying, oh, you won't get anyone wanting to come to Harrow. No one knows about Harrow. We didn't even know about Harrow, and we live like 15 minutes from Harrow. So it's in the middle of Cornwall. It's not by the coast. It's got a lot of things around it, like the river and moors and woods and things like that. But it was our fears a little bit, and locals that we talked to about it, is that you won't get people coming specifically for Harrow, but that doesn't matter. So I was going to, naturally say the coast, of course those properties come at a massive premium. And what I've been really surprised about is how happy guests are to come and get themselves a base right in the middle of Cornwall and go north, drive sometimes for like 2.5 hours down to Land's End, drive 55 minutes to the north coast, drive 35 minutes to the south coast, drive half an hour onto some sort of tour onto Dartmoor and things like that. So I think, I don't actually think with like Cornwall and Devon, I think, of course, you put yourself in a spectacular part on a lake or a river, or some special part of Dartmoor or the coast, then of course that's going to bring the masses. It did with the chalet. That's where I got it, was because of where it was. I get that it's a huge factor, but I do think if you can find that right property that's in the middle of, it doesn't have to be in a special town or even on the outskirts of a special town. We're not near anywhere of any great significance where it comes to people trying to search for where we are, and we're still like really busy. So I wouldn't get too blinkered with trying to find that necessarily like coastal spot or stuff, because people will happily, a lot of these people spend a lot of time in London and places like that where they're sat around in traffic for like hours, and sitting on a lovely country highway for an hour is not a big deal for them to sort of scout around different parts of Cornwall and stuff. So I think that would be my main thing really, is don't get too caught up with exactly where it is, unless you've got the big bucks and want to have a big lush pad at in St Ives or whatever.
Interesting. It seems to me like it's more about the character of the place rather than necessarily the location's important, but I think we do the same when we go on our holidays. When we're doing an Airbnb and we're doing a staycation, if we go to example Norfolk, we don't necessarily stay in sort of Cromer. We stay outside. We stay a 20-minute drive, and actually you can access more sort of coastal towns and split up your visit rather than just being in one place. So maybe like that's what we're doing more with Airbnbs. Rather than going to a particular place and staying there, maybe as they would do traditionally, they're finding characterful places like yourselves, like yours, with where they can actually access more places from it, and have to drive those distances.
Yeah, they want to just explore, and they go in any direction to explore. So I think so.
Interesting. Well, Jay, there's been some really good stuff here, so thank you very much for your time. And we just like to wrap up with your second funniest guest story. Your first was absolutely brilliant, so I don't imagine it's going to be, but let's see.
This is a good one. This is a good one, and I've got to give the credit to guests actually, because it's not so much like my story. So we had some guests that stayed 12 months or so ago, and they were also hosts. We were chatting to them about how they found it hosting and things like that, and they told us their funniest story. And they lived in Manchester, and they had a place in Manchester, and they like to travel, so they would let their place out. It's like an apartment in Manchester, and they would go all around like Europe and further afield, and they were in Italy at the time, and it was the early hours of the morning. It's like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and the host's phone goes in Italy, and he's got a guy there staying, I think like a month or something like that, staying in their home. And the guy was on the phone like really flustered. He said, I'm really sorry to bother you, but can you help me with something here? And he's like, well, yeah, emergency or something. And I said, well, sort of. He said, my partner's come around to visit me for the weekend, and she's about to storm out. She's like livid, and she's found a pair of pants down the back of the sofa that I'm on here. Can you, if I describe them to you, can your partner confirm that they're her pants? So basically, this guy on loudspeaker with his girlfriend listening had the host had to confirm that these pants were in hers, which thankfully they were her pants, and thankfully saved the relationship of their guest, obviously a little bit disappointed that cleaning them it's sort of not been up to par, and the pants had stayed on the sofa. But thankfully the guest's relationship stayed intact.
So I mean, did they? I imagine they weren't handling the pants, right? They just left them, hopefully, and they're not like holding the camera.
I don't know how they would describe. I'd like to think they were just visually described rather than properly. Brilliant.
That is, I've got to say, those are the two best guest stories that we've had. We've had lost hamsters.
brought nothing else. At least I might have brought a little bit of humour in.
Very good. Okay, James. Well, yeah, thanks again for your time. Hopefully, I think there's a lot of stuff in there for new and seasoned hosts alike. So yeah, thanks again for your time.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gareth.